Hi guys! How's it going? Welcome back, or welcome to, if you are new here, what's up? Today I am bringing you the best books that I read in 2021. Honestly, I kind of hate it how not everyone, okay, this is a broad statement. Hot topic. I hate how so many things come out in December, like your Spotify Wrapped, your best books of 2021, when there's like a whole month still left. Why are we forgetting December? If I had filmed this in early December, mid-December, or even towards the end of December, this list wouldn't be the same as it is when I am filming it right now, because I had two books that I was racing to finish before the end of the year, and I finished my last one the night of December 31st. But without further ado, let's get in no particular order, I should say, because that's too much for me. I don't know. I love them all. They were all great. Let's get into the best books that I read in 2021. Slight letting you know, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do nonfiction / self-development books first, and then go into fiction books second half. So the first book I have, I almost don't know if I can count it as 2021. I started it in 2020 and I think I finished it on like the 4th or 5th of January of 2021. But that is So You Want to Talk About Race. I've talked about this before in some other videos. I think this should be required reading. I thought it was so informative, so thought-provoking, and it is a great step to learning and unlearning for the society and racist biases that are embedded into the American society or in societies in general. But yes, I absolutely love this book. As you can see, I have color-coordinated tabs, I have highlighted marks, all the things. I would definitely, if you haven't already, highly recommend you pick this up and you take the time to read it and ingest it and think about it. So the next book we have is Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. I really enjoyed this book. I originally listened to this as an audiobook and liked it so much that I wanted to get the physical copy. And like months after I bought the physical copy and listened to it, I also bought on Audible. There we go. I had bought on Audible the audiobook as well, so that I could always go back and reference it instead of having to wait in line with the library. I just really like this. I like the way that he positions green lights, yellow lights, red lights. I thought listening to him speak on some crazy stories that he has was very funny, very entertaining. All in all, I thought there was a lot of elements where I could do self-reflection. I think that is pretty prevalent throughout his book. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. Next, we have a book that I think really changed the way I think about my life right now as I am in my 20s, as a young woman, as a young professional, and it is The Defining Decade. This book terrified me. It was absolutely a gut check. It was scary to read, but I have thought back on this so frequently. It has really pressed me emotionally and mentally about what I want to do with my life, where I want to go, what I want my future to be, and then to make actions to get there now. I think you can give and take as much as you want out of this book. You might not agree with everything that is said, but I think that all of it can be thought-provoking and give you a different perspective. So remember when I was talking about how this video would look differently if I had filmed it in December? This is one of those reasons. This is Tiny Beautiful Things, Advice on Love and Life from Dear Sugar. It's by Cheryl Strayed. She is the writer who also did Wild. I picked this up originally, started reading this in September. I got to page 14. I think I just finished the introduction and put it down and then just did not pick it back up again until mid-December. And I'm so happy that I finished this. I have so many things that I have underlined and that I thought was really interesting. One thing so for context, for those of you who have no idea what this is a series of, I guess, question and responses. It's like those columns where people would write in questions that they wanted somebody, aka Dear Sugar, to help them answer, or to give them advice on, or to give them direction, etc. So that's what this whole is. And I will say that some of these stories, they might not directly relate to you. There was tons, actually, that didn't relate to me. But the ones that do and the ones that really resonate and hit you will be beautiful. They'll not only be beautifully written, but they will also really hit home in a lot of ways. At least that's what it did for me. I think there's so many passages in here that a single sentence or a single phrase really just hit something that I had been thinking about, or something that I have also struggled with, or something that I have also thought or seen or done, you know, all these things. So Tiny Beautiful Things, I'm really glad that I ended up finishing it in 2021 because it was a long, slow journey for us. But yeah, this is another one of my favorites. The last book on my nonfiction self-development phase is Invisible Women: Data Bias in a World Designed for Men. This, I'm so glad. I forgot who in my book club picked this one. So glad that they did. I am so grateful that I've read this book. I think it is so interesting. I feel like it's a very interesting, academic, intellectual book. So that's awesome. But it's also just, it really blows your mind how crazy this entire world, our entire society as a human race is designed for men. And when she points out some things that I have not even thought of, like bus stops, you know, the way and where and the bus systems on, you know, X random city are set up in a way that directly benefits men and does not benefit or hinders women. It is so interesting. I highly recommend. And what's funny is that I actually think while I was reading this, I was like, man, this is long. Man, this is really intense. Wow. And then after I read it and finished it, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful. I'm so happy that I read this. And I think back on this and talk about this and reference it all the time. So that is closing out. This is rounding out the nonfiction side of things. And now let's get into some of the fiction books that I loved and enjoyed so much in 2021. Okay, so I'll get the two that I actually don't have physical copies of out of the way first. The first one is Verity by Colleen Hoover. This was my first Colleen Hoover book. Stay tuned because I'm going to do a full review of my thoughts on Colleen Hoover's writing style, my first book of hers, because I know she's a very popular artist, or she's a very popular writer. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I didn't really have any expectations going into it. I did not know it was kind of a thriller. I thought they were all romance books, but I guess they're romance thrillers. Wasn't expecting that. But I think that played very well into how much I ended up liking it. Overall, I find it hard for thrillers or suspense novels to truly surprise me. I think that I figure out kind of the twists and turns pretty frequently. So this one actually kind of surprised me in a sense and wasn't expecting some of those twists and turns, and I think that made it just a very enjoyable audiobook to listen to. But yeah, so that was one of them. The other book that I don't have a physical copy of, I borrowed it from the library, was The Heart's Invisible Furies. Again, one of my book club picks that I just ended up loving. While I was reading it, I was like, oh my god, this is so long. And you can kind of get a little nervous about the fact that it's like a 400, 500 plus page book. But it was just a beautiful story about a kid trying to grow up in a quote unquote, not quote unquote, but a more oppressive atmosphere. He is trying to find himself and trying to figure out who he is and who he's gonna be in a place where he doesn't think that he can do that openly and honestly. It goes throughout his whole life. It like starts with his mother, goes into him, goes into his entire life until he is like an old man. And it bops around to different locations. We are in Ireland, we are in, I think it's the Netherlands or Amsterdam, New York for a little bit, all over the place. But it is just a beautiful story, and I think that it does a wonderful job at making you deal with a bunch of different emotions and how you feel about certain things that he does. And things that happen to him. You just have a lot of conflicting feelings, and it's a great eye-opener that not everything is black and white. Not everything is good or bad or evil or things like that. It's all on a spectrum, and it can't always be so clean cut and clear. So those are the two that I don't have physical copies of, and I have 3 more fiction books for you. So probably to nobody's surprise, Dune. I love Dune. If you haven't already, you should check out the review I did of Dune for quote-unquote sci-fi newbies. I am a sci-fi newbie. I don't think that I read a lot of them, but I'm hoping to continue to read them. I love this world. I think Frank Herbert did an incredible job of this world building that he's done. It's so detailed, so in-depth. He just thinks of things that I guess you have to when you are creating a world, but that I would never think of if I was like writing a book. I was like, oh, this is just a minute detail. You don't need it. He's thought of it, he's done it, he's written about it. We have all the context and information. I would highly recommend reading it before watching the movie if you haven't already, because I think that this helps a lot with the details of what, what's arrakis, what's spice, what are all these things. The second to last book that I have for you is The Kiss Quotient. These are having their moment, and they're continuing to have their moment. This was amazing. A great middle, I don't even know if middle is the right word, but like perfect amount of spice, perfect amount of just authentic romance. I love the representation that she has in this book. There's not much else to say about this. I just enjoyed reading it. Last book. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This was a great just escapism type of novel. It is a great balance of fantasy. There's some historical fiction in there, contemporary fiction. It kind of mashes them all together, and you have just this beautiful story about a woman who is trying to live a fulfilling life when nobody can remember her. It's just a very interesting concept, and I think it does exactly what you want from a kind of fantastical fiction book, and that is it is an escape from reality and it's an escape from the real world, and it just leaves you kind of happy and smiling. What more could you ask for? And that about wraps up my favorite books of 2021. I think it was 10 in total, something around there. I'm so happy with the books that I read. I'm very excited about 2022. I have a bunch of books that I've already decided I want to read in 2022. Not so much a TBR for the year, but books that I just feel it's time. They've been on my shelf for a long time. They're calling me, all these types of things, etc. But yeah, 2022, I'm feeling very excited about it. I hope you are too. I hope you guys are all staying safe. I hope you guys all had a great New Year's Eve and holidays. And I will see you guys in my next video next week. You guys heard it here first. I am committing 2022, at least one video a week. Here I go. Cross your fingers for me. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.